In this video, we're going to be talking about one big reason why your ministry audience is just kind of ho-hum about church. It's just, well, we're here, but they're not really engaging. They're not actively moving to the core of your church. They're not taking ownership about engaging with the mission and vision of your ministry. Hello and welcome. My name is Brett Henderson with Clickmill.co. Now, the question that we need to answer for this video is what gets people passionate? What gets people engaged? What incentivizes them to move to the core of your church? And this is less of a marketing question as much as it is a human nature question. And so we're going to be digging into this a little bit, especially from a biblical viewpoint here. People get passionate about specific things. People get passionate about one individual purpose. What people cannot get passionate about is broad, vague ideas. Now, I'm a visionary. I want to teach all the pastors, all the ministry leaders how to reach more people more effectively. But that is very difficult to take and to give to someone who's not a visionary. That's a very visionary thing. And I think that you're a visionary and you want to go unto all the world. You want to go and reach everyone. And that is wonderful. But the typical audience isn't going to relate with that. It's too broad. They just can't empathize with it. Now, I want to give you an example from one of our actual clients that we're working with. It's a multi-site church. Now, they have multiple sites and they have what they call a missions week, and they're a missions-oriented church. So we'll just use that as the example for kind of mission and vision and ministry throughout this video, just to kind of follow suit here. But that said, they're a missions church. So they have a mission week where they call all these people to missions, and each campus has a missions team, and they send that missions team into the community. Well, with almost no exception, the ministries were saying, well, hey, we're going to go make a difference. We're going to go out into the community. We're going to reach the lost. And, they're saying the buzz things that we're supposed to say at church. And, that's how they were approaching this. But it was vague, like we're going to make a difference. We're going to reach people, whatever. I don't remember the messaging was so unimpactful that I don't even remember what it was that they said. It was just bland brand flakes. We're going to make a difference. We're going to help everybody. Now, there was one campus in this church with one of the ministers that I talked to the most. And he said, we are going into the inner city to this one specific middle school. He had been meeting the needs of the principal. And what do I mean? He literally was talking to the principal. What needs do you have at your school? What are your biggest problems? And he was doing everything he possibly could to meet the needs of that principal. And he did this so effectively that the principal said, why don't you have office hours? Why don't you create an after school program? Just come in. The principal is not even a believer. And he said, what do you feel God's telling you to do here at the school? That is the type of relationship he built by meeting needs. So now, what did the pastor then do? Well, he got with his missions team and he said, we're going to this specific middle school in this part of the city, inner city, where the kids, they don't even speak the same language as the teachers. The parents don't speak the same language as the teachers. And the kids in middle school have a 7% graduation rate. And then they will essentially be condemned to extreme poverty, and the men will, basically be either in jail, and the women will have, fatherless families. That is essentially the type of community he's talking about. This is the purpose and the vision of Missions Week that he cast for his campus. And people got so excited about it. The other ministries got so excited about it. They redirected all of their missions team, and the entire church, right, the whole corporate church, sent all of their missions team to this one middle school and just served and, did all of the things that this, the low budget public school principal could not afford to do. And they went and they met needs and they served. And now they're doing combined, the Christian school at this church is doing combined sports games. And these kids are now prayed over and blessed at the school. So it leads into all of these other things. But that said, this ministry leader, this pastor of this one campus said, no, we're doing something hyper specific. We're not reaching everybody. We're going to reach those kids and we're going to give them a better life. The question is, and the question's kind of answered here too, but which one lights people on fire? Which one gets people passionate? We're going to reach everybody, or we're going to reach only these people? The specific one is what makes people really passionate. I think in ministry, we default to we're going to reach everyone. I was a youth pastor for 3 years. I wanted to reach all the kids. That was my heart. I want to reach the world. It's the same as you. Now, there are, I think, maybe 2 reasons, and I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments as to why we default to reach everyone. But there are 2 reasons I think this is the case. Number 1, I think that the first reason we default to let's reach the whole world is because of the Great Commission. And I have this pulled up, and I want to talk about this for just a moment. So the Great Commission says, go and reach everyone. So what do we say? Well, our calling is to reach everyone. This is actually mistaken, in my opinion. Now, before you go after me here, just hear me out. All right. Later, so this is Mark 16, and we're going to read a little bit of context, 14 through 16. This is the Great Commission. So later, as they were eating, Jesus appeared to the 11 and rebuked them for their unbelief and hardness of heart. They did not believe those who had seen him after he had risen. And he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Whoever believes and is baptized will be saved, but whoever does not believe will be condemned. And it continues, go into all the world. This is why we believe we are to go to everyone. But I want you to focus in. Who's Jesus talking to? He's talking to the disciples. This isn't a church. This is the capital C church. These are the guys who are going to spread apart and go and take the church everywhere. This is the capital C church, not a church. And that's the critical distinction here. You are a church, not the church. The capital C church, the body of Christ, will take the good news to the whole world. And you're a part of that. You're a part of the body. Your job is not to take the church everywhere. And now, are there examples of that in Scripture? Because again, my goal is to always do marketing from a biblical standpoint. And I can give you, we'll just do 3 off the top of my head. Paul did not take the good news to all the world. Who was his specific audience? The Gentiles. He left the Jews and went to where the Gentiles are. Okay, so Paul has a target audience. Jesus stays in Israel because who is his primary audience? The Jews. And then to the Gentiles, well, yeah, okay, he spends some time with Gentile areas a little, but he's primarily focused first on God's chosen people. Okay, so those are 2 target audiences. Even Jesus isn't going to anyone. He knows the whole church will go to everyone. But let's just go with the book of the Bible. How about Galatians? Was Galatians written to everyone? No. Galatians was originally written to the church in Galatia with very specific issues that it talks about. Now, of course, it became part of the canon, and now all of us read it, and it's in the inspired word of God. But originally, it had a very specific target audience. So in the Bible, even the disciples, right? The disciples that aren't Paul stay in Israel. I get really passionate about this. They're not going to everyone, right? And so that said, your ministry doesn't go to everyone. And when I talk about this with pastors, and sometimes, I'll get some pushback, and that's fine because, we obviously want to do things in a biblical way. But sometimes I'll just have to ask, like, okay, you're supposed to go to everyone. Like, let's really see how we're doing here. How's your, ministry to Zambian widows? Well, we don't have a ministry to Zambian widows. Well, okay, well, how's your ministry to Zambia? Well, we don't have that. Well, how about Africa? Well, we don't have that. How about Europe, Asia, South America? We don't have that. Well, okay, where is your ministry? Well, it's in, Utah. Okay, great. Your ministry's in Utah or Oregon. What part of Oregon is your ministry in? Are you really reaching the people on the very edge of the state that live out in the woods? Well, no. Okay, so you do ministry to the homeless and to, let's say, young families in this one city in Oregon. That is your audience. So you're going to all of those people. And the answer to that is, yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense. And you should go to all of those people if that's who God is calling your ministry to reach. So the first reason to kind of bring it back around, the first reason why ministries don't specify, or ministry leaders don't specify what their vision and what their specific vision is, and instead say, hey, it's all about going to everybody, is because we actually believe we're supposed to go to everybody. Now, I don't believe this is the case for the reasons that I just kind of laid out. Now, number two, I think that there is actually a fear. Well, we do feel called, like, for example, with the church that we're talking about, we do feel called to missions, but, give something for everybody. And that's also the case with this ministry. They have lots and lots of unrelated things. Now, why is that the case? Why don't we cut out everything and just focus it in on missions and do the thing God is calling us to do? Well, that is a really, really scary thing to do, because what happens as soon as you say, we're a missions church, or, I'm just giving an example, but like if you're at this church, you're a missionary, because that's what we're doing. You're going to be a missionary at your work. You're going to be a missionary to your local community. We'll go together. Then if you want, you can be a missionary nationally. You can be a missionary internationally. Heck, we'll send you to Yemen, whatever. But if that's the approach, what happens? The first thing that happens is everybody who doesn't like missions leaves. That's not growth. That's terrifying. We just ostracized a whole bunch of people, maybe half the audience, maybe 80%, who knows? That is really scary. But that is exactly what needs to happen to start creating growth. So again, before you say, well, that's not the case, just hear me out. So what happens, firstly, when you have a bunch of people in your ministry who are unclear on what you do? Everybody is just ho-hum. Well, yeah, I go to church, but I'm not really going to do that thing over there. Why? Because they're not passionate about missions. If you ask them, they wouldn't want to do it because they're in the wrong place. What if they're passionate about homelessness and you've been unclear about your mission and your real vision, and now they aren't at a church that focuses on homelessness? Well, you should tell them so that they can be at a church where God can use them and their gifts and their passions with a church that focuses on homelessness, or a church that works with adoption or, trafficking or whatever. We want people to be at ministries where God can use them the most, ministries that align with their passions and their gifts. We actually don't want to hold those people back. We want them to go where they're supposed to go. And I would say, even if that means in the short run, we lose some people. Now, I also just want to point out here, a little sidebar, that in marketing, the first thing you have to do is sift your audience from the people who are unrelated. Now, we talk to pastors, usually men between, let's say, 24 and 44, and even then, that's not specific enough, because not every pastor likes the way we approach marketing. Not every pastor, whatever it is, has a website. I don't know if they don't care about digital ministry. All right, well, that's kind of where we're at. So they're out. But we want to filter through those people and get the pastors who are in line with where we're at. We don't want all pastors. We want the pastors who are running parallel with the vision of reaching more people more effectively, and then with an emphasis on online. Same thing with you. You have to filter people out to get the ones that are supposed to be with your ministry, that are called to do the missions or whatever your actual call is outside of everything. Now, the scary part is we lose all the people. But now what happens? The second thing that happens, and this is the thing that we don't see, right? This is the second order consequence. First order consequence, we lose people. They start filtering themselves out and going to something that maybe they should actually be at. The second order consequence is now everybody who's at your church that's actually passionate about missions, what happens? Well, we're not ho-hum anymore. They just said that they're going to do the thing that we love, that we feel called to do. Let's do it. Let's get to it, right? I want to be a missionary at my work. I want you to show me how to be a missionary to my community. I want you to take me to the middle school down the road where we're going to work with the kids that, whatever. Now we're passionate. Now we're excited. Well, what do excited people do? They already know all the other people who are also excited about missions, because what do? They talk about missions, and they go and they get them and they bring them to your church. So that is how you spur the growth. Clarify your mission, clarify your vision, so that people actually know what you do. They get excited, and then they'll go get more people, because what are you doing? You're meeting their need for purpose clearly, and you're pulling them right into it. The point is, when you take your vision and your mission and you say, this is what we're doing, this is the specific ministry God's called us to, yes, you're going to lose some people. Some people are going to get disinterested, but the people who are left are going to get very excited. They're going to take ownership. They're going to move to the core of the church much more quickly, and they're going to bring other people with them as they do it. Don't stop now. We have tons of other videos for you to watch and learn how to reach more people more effectively. If you love this video and you don't want to miss out on what we have coming up for you next, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell to keep up to date with our newest content. If you want to work with Clickmill personally, head on over to clickmill.co, where you can learn more about our proven ministry marketing strategies. I look forward to seeing you in the very next video.